podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Football Gods is the podcast where we give celebrity fans ultimate power over the beautiful game.
You can hear Ian Brodie choose his ultimate football anthem.
I think You'll Never Walk Alone, which is a song about community, being together. I don't think you could have a better song.
And understand, above all else, what annoys Nader Manuoha.
The player who solely plays for themselves, but from the outside is perceived as being great for the team. Like, some of these guys are the most toxic people you could ever wish to play with.
Search the Football Gods wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Welcome yet again to the Lazy Buggers UP, which leaves me, Simon Brundish, as your host. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I can't track where everybody is. Somebody's doing something, so you're just left with me and the doctor and the boy genius over there. How you doing, boys?
Not bad, mate. Not bad.
Excellent, thank you, sir.
Isn't it a weird game? Like, I finished this game and I was a little bit annoyed, though we'd won. And I don't know how that happens sometimes. I think I was probably just online a little bit too much. But how are you feeling about the game, Hamzah?
I was surprised by the amount of the quality of chances that were given away. I was surprised that the actual corner was scored from such a distance. But at the same time, I think all the forwards got around 6 shots each minimum, which was good. Nunez played okay. Nunez played good, actually, sorry. Diaz looks on the up. And there are some interesting things with when Curtis played fullback and Elliott came in field that just shows it a bit different in terms of the dynamics. Yeah, there are a few different takeaways that I had from the match, but non sort of negative ones. But I didn't watch it live. I rewatched it, so I didn't have any of that sort of live emotion. And when you know the scoreline afterwards, you're a bit less sort of worried when you're watching it back.
Makes sense. But
yeah, watching it live, I was in the frustrated kind of pool because I was a bit like, this is Burnley. The keeper's not a great keeper in the league. You know, it just seemed a bit odd, and I was annoyed about there was one period of the game which will come on to, I think, 45 to 60 or something like that, where they created a load. They took 3 big chances, and it was just that period of instability against a really low ranked side. I don't like seeing when you're in this kind of run. But then rewatching it, you look at some of the numbers, yeah, I could probably see why. You know, they did some good stuff in what they did with the limited they had, and then average positions start telling a story as well about how deep we were. Surprisingly, we weren't very high in the first half, especially. But there was some good positive play. I think Nunes played well. I agree with that. I thought CJ actually, when he went to right back, was probably the best player on the pitch. From my point of view, one of the best players anyway. I thought he was really good at right back. Yeah, and Kwanzaa again, bar one little error maybe, was a good partner for BBD. But no, I think it's one of those, isn't it? It did remind me, in some elements, it reminded me of title winning season, i.e. all goals are set plays. But, you know, and the recycling bit. But then the bit that didn't remind me of that was just that untangible stuff in the middle where you felt like they could break and create something, which they did in a little period. So the lack of control, there you go, that's the one. A lack of control from us. But yeah, that's probably my thing.
It never felt like totally convincing, did it?
No, it was 3-1, but I think if we hadn't got that third, it would have been a bit rocky. Was it 98-minute game, something like that? So they had a long period of time. 101.
101 minute again. Yeah. That's 3 games in a row we've had 101-minute games.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I posted this the other day, but people seem to think I was making some reference to the length in the how long it was, but it's just literally the randomness of having 301-minute games in a row. It wasn't the longest game by us this season. We've got a 118-minute game at one point. Like, you're playing extra time with the amount of and in this game, the referee, I don't know, it's some dickhead, Tim Robinson. Who the fuck is that? Doesn't he do TED Talks or something? He was allowing their goalkeeper, as ever, to do whatever he likes with the ball in his hand. He had a 27-second and two 24-second goal kicks with the ball in his hand.
Yeah,
Miggs got called for 23. The only time I've ever seen anybody given a free kick against. I was in the stadium. I was probably the most furious fan in the stadium anyway, just because it was Mignolet. 23 seconds. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? And it's infuriating. It's a shame. I thought Darth was at the stadium. So I kind of wanted an insight into that, but I find it infuriating. I think it helps, like when the crowd are raucous and early on, and it can help drive the team forward. Yeah. I find against lower teams early in the day, but definitely against lower teams, when they set the tempo of the game by not walking to pick up a throw-in, by taking as long as possible to take a goal kick, by the referee allowing them to do whatever they like to waste 10, 15 seconds, it slows down our intensity. And my feeling, just without going into anything granular, is that for the first half of the game, we played at their tempo. We were walking around. We were walking to take throw-ins. Even a goal came about from 30 seconds of Trent pumping up the crowd, which is, nice, but still taking ages to take the actual set piece. And we're at our best when we put the ball down and play straight away. When Mac gets fouled, he puts the ball on the floor and plays it straight off and tries to catch the opposition out. And when we take a throw as fast as possible, whoever the ball goes out, and whoever's nearest picks the ball up and just gets the ball in play. And that's when I find we're imposing ourselves physically on the opposition that way, instead of them enabling them to do it to us.
I think you're right. So I think I've written down first half, there was a lot of indecision, which sometimes comes from us being too slow. I think we play very much off the cuff, ahead of when it's all like biz, like you say, fizzing the ball around to each other. It's straight off the cuff. We just run the patterns instinctly and don't have to. We've got too many players. If they think too much, I think it goes wrong. And I think in the first half, you saw we had breakaways 3-on-2, 4-on-3 at a couple of times, and we made the wrong call because the play was too slow, in my opinion.
I think the intensity, as I said, I don't know what you think, Hamzah. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, and I talk about it all the time with my team, is that the speed of your play comes about how many touches you have, but that very often is dictated by how many options you have, and that is dictated by the intensity off the ball for the first 2 seconds of you losing it. So if at any moment, if you took a 3-second screen grab of when one of our centre-backs had the ball, there'll be ahead of them, there will very, very often have 8 players not moving. And we can only play fast when we have 8 players sprinting to a new spot. Whether it's 2 feet away, doesn't matter. But the intensity of their movement without the ball when we have possession determines the speed of our play. And it was just really ponderous, so I thought. Hamzah, do you have a stats pack of the matchday stats, or are we going straight in with Bart's?
The Bart's can go.
Do you want to do summary?
Yeah, summary. Yeah.
I have to say, possession is slightly lower than they report. I've got 64 versus 36, which is a little bit lower than reported. But anyway,
reported 70 in it, but I bet.
Yeah.
Is yours modified for time?
Yeah. Yeah,
right, well, that'll be it, because they were standing with the ball out of play for 15 minutes in the first half.
I'm going to go with mine just because I'm being awkward. 25-9 shots, 11 on target to their 4, 18 in the box versus their 7 in the box shots. We had 7 outside the box. They had 2 outside the box shots. The key stuff: big chances, 5-4 to us. XG again. I've got 2.83 versus 1.41. Post shot, I've got 1.1 for them, 2.89 for us. EPV, which is mine's always lower than XT. I've got 1.25. They've got 0.52. But that does mean they converted more of their threat to XG, which actually, if you think about how they played, probably makes sense. Field tilt added this week. I've got 73.5 to their 25.6. And there's only 2 periods where they better us for field tilt, and that happens to be when they actually 1 period where they better us for field tilt, and that is where they create 3 big chances. So that might be something to think about. Probabilities of winning, 71.3 to us to win, and the draw was more probable than Burnley winning, and the most probable score in 1,000 sims was actually 3-1 with 11%.
That is about as comprehensive as a stat pack as you're going to get. Because I don't know why Darth always comes to me over this nonsense. I'm coming to you, Hamzah. Tell me about the team.
So Alisson was ill, so Quivine in goal, which was the big major one, and then Trent at right back, Kwanzaa in for Gomez. Well, and Kanate because he's suspended at centre back alongside Virgil. Robbo starting on the left. Also, Endo back in, starting as a 6. Jones and McAllister alongside him. Diaz on the left, Nunez to the middle, and Jota on the right. And we've discussed this before. Klopp mentioned the player's A1 position. So that's Nunez's favourite, that's Diaz's favourite, and Jota, because he's multifunctional, he's meant to fill in the holes and sort of do the connective stuff and all the itty bitty stuff in the front line to make sure that Diaz and Nunez can do what they do best. The interesting thing here was because Endo's back in, where would McAllister play? And McAllister early on pushed up a little bit as Trent moved in field. And that dynamic changed in the second half because Trent went off, Curtis went on, and then Curtis held width, and Harvey came on as well. And I thought that actually worked all right. But yeah, a little bit of tinkering in midfield, but that was the lineup.
Yeah, makes sense. And how do we have 5 changes for this, wasn't there? I'm speaking from truth. And it was we currently have 8 injuries. If we throw in the sicknesses, I'm not having people that we are speaking truth here. So I don't like the inferred extra illnesses of people. Illnesses that prevented people from playing, but they were sat on the bench. There's no chance that a professional football club puts an infectious person who has ripped the heart of the team out on the bench. So Grav's not ill. He might have felt ill earlier in the week, but he absolutely wasn't ill. And I also find a nonsense the stuff about somebody's half fit or whatever on the bench. If they're on the bench, they can play. That's just the bottom line. So we have 8 injuries right now. It's no fun. And given that Ali is absent and Joe Gomez is absent, who's now played himself right into that conversation of first team, and Matip, who was first team before he got injured, and Thiago, who's the greatest midfielder ever to have played for Liverpool, alongside Zobbo, who might be the next greatest midfielder to ever play for Liverpool, and the greatest youngster in history called Ben Doak, never quite sure, and perhaps the greatest footballer of all time, Mohamed Salah. That's quite a significant injury list without it raising us into the top 10 in the Premier League. So it was quite a debilitating setup, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's all down the right-hand side as well. Our main, or has been for many years, our main engine for creating chances, right?
By the second half, it's definitely all down the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So, should we crack on with the actual game?
Did you want to cover re-injury stuff?
Let's talk about it at the end.
All right, no worries.
We end up with more injuries than we had at the beginning, didn't we? So,
yeah.
Crack on with the boring game, which still had 4 goals in and 11 big chances, but I was still bored. So first quarter, I like to go in the first 24 minutes. What really happened? I have us at not an awful lot, but there we go. We had 5 touches in the box each in the first 24 minutes. It felt like we had the ball, but they actually had some good chances, didn't they? They had 2 shots in the box. We had 1 at that point. What do you know? What is the XG for that period, Bart?
I've got it split. So theirs for the first 15 minutes was 0.32. And then the 16 to 30 was 0.03. So
yeah, it was early. It's just the way I split it instead of
but it's the bulk of their XG was in that first period of time.
It took a while before our formation settled. What did we? It felt like we set up slightly differently, Hamzah.
As in you thinking more about sort of McAllister where he was playing.
And we're still. It didn't seem that Trent's first thought was to invert as well.
No, so in possession, there's a strong sort of horseshoe sort of feel to it because they play with a 4-4-2 with Amdouni and Fofana squeezing on the sixes. When the ball went in, it usually went out, and there's a lot of sort of slow football. And against a 4-4-2 or against any sort of team that's sort of sitting back, you need to be quick.
So can I just interject for a second, just because we're a stat show? Fofana has the best minutes per goal rate in the Premier League. Continue.
Thank you. In a few different moments. So there's actually quite a nice move in the 5th minute. Mac moved to the right wing, Jota dropped deep, Trent moved into half space, and there's a sequence of sort of quick passing, and that meant that rotation just moved Burnley around a little bit and opened a bit of space up. And there's a better one later on the left side after a switch where Robertson played into CJ, who then played into Endo. Robertson ran around the back. Diaz pushed the line, created a bit of space, and then Robbo crossed for Nunez, but he couldn't quite reach it. Beyond that, in that first period, there wasn't much there in terms of threat and provocative sort of space occupation. Because Mac was infield and Endo was infield, there wasn't really the need or the space for Trent to move infield straight away. So he was waiting for McAllister to push up, and then he might go inside, he might go into the half space, or he might actually move into the 6. As the half actually wore on, though, Trent started doing a few different things. He went between the centre-backs for a little bit, went infield, went a bit wider. He tried a few different things, but without the sort of the speed around him, he wasn't really able to accelerate play as much as he would have liked. There are a few, maybe 2-3 switches in the first 30 that I picked up on. The dynamic changed a bit. And beyond those 2 sequences in the 5th minute and that one on the left side, there wasn't too much of smart movement to pull Burnley around.
Definitely not for us. There was Burnley had a big chance after 10, didn't they?
That was the Amdouni, yeah. 0.23 XG according to FOT1. That was a really good save, I think.
Good save, yeah. Queeve made actually a good save, which I kind of wanted to point out, but he is on a trend of making saves. He's still only 64% save rate, which is kind of wank. But it's way over the last 4 games. He's starting to. I don't know. People were saying that he needed to play more without making judgment. I'm like, he's played for 4 years. This is the keeper he is. But
he's all right.
Maybe. And keepers do tend to peak late. I don't know. Like for old people that remember the shit show we used to put up with in the 90s in goal for us between Brad Friedel and David James, who both went off to be bloody brilliant. And they were garbage for us, and they went off to be really, really good goalkeepers for other people because goalkeepers age well. So maybe I'm totally wrong, and he's going to be a really, really good goalie.
Because this is a stat show, and it's my turn to do this now. The median age for a goalkeeper this season is I've actually lost the stat. I think it's 31. It's 31. I think it's 31. I'll come back to you there. As in, I had a list, but I've deleted the top row, so I don't have the numbers on top.
That makes sense. I did a big study, a big research project last summer, I think, looking at peak ages of each age group, and goalkeepers are obviously the highest by miles. So yeah, there's a good chance that that's the case, but you just don't know if it's experience of actual playing in matches, what the difference is, why they get better. Well, I don't know. Who knows?
It's environment as well, isn't it? Environment as well. You know,
maybe environment, maybe it's trust, maybe goalkeepers get better.
Yeah.
Well,
all manner of things. All manner of things.
Yeah. Maybe he'll just look better if he moves down to play for Burnley and gets the 36 shots a game to save, gets more practice. It's possible. But I just wanted to point out he's got better anyway.
Yeah.
Because what actually happened until the second phase of the second quarter, we scored. Tell me about the goal, Bart.
So this is actually where, rather than Trent trying to invert or go between the centre halves or do something funky, just went back to old school Trent, went wide, put two balls in, they blocked. One of them went out for a corner. And then we get a classic Liverpool go-ahead goal from a set play. I have no idea why they were trying to claim the keeper was impeded when it was his own player that impeded the keeper. And it just forced to Jota, and Jota does what he does, which is score. So I thought it was good. I completely agree with Hamzah. Trent was trying to get on the ball, but this was one of the instances where he just went high and wide, received the ball, put two balls in. They closed it down. I think the third attempt, it went out for a corner. We put the corner in a pretty good area. Keeper, SP Frank made a hash of it. And Jota, I said, Lineker scores 1-0. I haven't got the XG for that, actually. I should look at that for you.
The Slaughter is a tremendous
0.35.
He, with this goal, I don't have the stats up. I think this is number 15 header goal. He went ahead of goals scored with his head in the Premier League of Andy Carroll.
Yeah, I noticed you put that up into it. That was quite funny.
It amused me. It didn't get any traction, but it just amused me. Because Andy Carroll, Jesus Christ.
The first of all goals that were headed goals.
Ah.
How many times has that happened in the game? If theirs was headed, ours were all headed. So all goals in a game.
Header.
It was.
Was it?
Yeah, header.
Oh, you're right. It was just stooped.
Stooped. Yeah, it wasn't like a classic get up and arch your neck, but it was. So all four goals were headers.
Tremendous. And in this period, we had 18 touches in the box, lots from dropping around from corners. They had 4, but we had 3 shots in the box. They had 2. So they still carried some threat in this period.
Yeah, that's fair. We had the most XG in this period. We had 0.6 to their 0.06, converting our APV at 200%. So yeah, we did. This was a good period for us, but they still had something on the counter, which is what we said at the beginning. It was never quite a stable environment for us. They still managed to get ahead, and obviously they scored in the same period. So
tidy. Hamzah, we have this debate all the time. I'm not sure we've had your take on this. The XG versus big chances versus post-shot XG, blah, blah, blah. This stuff, lots of it contains Darwin, but this is not about Darwin in this instance. It's about Jota. He had a 0.2 chance. He scored, and the post-shot was only 0.03. So it looks like he reduced the chance by his scoring, but he actually the goalkeeper wasn't in, and he just put it past the goalkeeper. So what is your take on this statistic?
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise, and a licence with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
I tend to use XG on target or post-shot XG to usually sort of as a rule of thumb for goalkeepers rather than for forwards. That's generally how I use it. There is a use of using XG and then plotting your XG on target to see how the goals scored above the XG, right? To see how good the finishing quality is. But I think we did mention this before. Some models take into account the goalkeeper, some don't. So that means just for this, it's not particularly valuable here because, and we may have also discussed this before. Was it last week, the week before? With set pieces, just standing in the way is quite an effective way to block goalkeepers, and a lot of teams do it. A lot of teams have done it historically. I think more are even doing it now. You just stand in the way on the edge of the 6-yard box. The keeper might come and take you out, and if they do, they might get away with it. But at the same time, they still have to take you out, which means there's a body there that's in the way, and it's a bit more difficult for them. So, unless there's a law that comes in to say lots of players can't stand around the goalkeeper, this is just the way to score goals. But yeah, to come back to your point about XG on target, I don't use it much for finishing. But it's better for goalkeepers, and I think it works well for analysing the goalkeeper here. He's made an error, missed the ball, and it's gone in the middle of the goal. So that should reflect poorly on him.
Fair enough. I like with all XGs. I think it's a nice trend. I don't think it's very representative of any individual game. But the other thing I wanted to mention was what you were talking about with Trent earlier, and whether his choices to invert or not, and how Mac was deeper. Could it be that Mac has been so used to playing deeper that his trend has been to just drop in, or do you think it was strategic? It was instructive.
Could be a bit of both, because I think it's a habit that you pick up, and I think in a game like this, just as a central midfield player, you want to get on the ball, so you are going to come a bit deep because of the 4-4-2 block. I think it's a bit of both. Just the nature of the stagnated play infield usually prompts a player to go, we need to change something. So, for example, if I'm playing a little bit further up and it's very stagnant, slow play, deeper, I might come short, not just to drag a player with me, but to get a touch, to create a bit of space, that sort of thing. So a bit of both, I think.
I love that. It's just not talked about. This is not stats driven or anything, but it's absolutely it's real, and it's human that sometimes you want a bit of the ball. You get a bit bored. So you get dragged out of position. The prime example of this is David Beckham against Greece, by the way, which we're going to hear a lot about in the next couple of months. But sometimes you just want the ball, and you end up going in a position you're not been instructed to, just to get it because you want to influence the game and you think you can. I do think in this, probably there was some kind of instruction that we were going to go mid-block again because we weren't pressing really high. And so that creates a different depth to the midfield a little bit, doesn't it, from where they usually are with Endo and the two higher.
CJ's on average higher in the first half, and so the left half space is a lot higher than he normally is. It's normally the right player that isn't right in the half space, whereas this time Mac is in the deeper of the half space channel, and the left half space, the left player is higher up, which is CJ. But then that impedes Diaz and the rest of it. Anyway,
that makes a lot of sense. And CJ covered the most distances.
He did,
as he always does. Yeah. As long as he's within 10 minutes of the finish of the game before he comes off. Because he's just a monster. But so he's more like, I think he's typically used as the highest presser, but also the guy that makes the run in behind if we're going to have a runner in behind as well. So his average touch is going to be that. Take us through their goal. Hamzah, take us through their goal.
1 second. Let me just load it up.
Dara O'Shea. Never heard of the dude.
Oh, the corner. This was unexpected.
Did you see how it built? Because online there was a lot of Trent slander. It's a weird thing that some players get it, and how you give a player of I don't know, the standing of Trent Alexander-Arnold in world football, the amount of stick he gets from his own fans blows my mind a little bit. And there was that with this. And so it looked like he pulled out of a tackle or something.
Oh, the dribble like
that led to the corner.
Attacking third. Yeah, as in so the forward who I will just get the name of.
You don't know his names either. Is that?
It was not Ramsey.
It was Odobert, who was one-on-one against Alexander-Arnold. Just gets around him on the left side. I think Trent goes to make the tackle, just bounce the wrong way. Then runs inside, plays a ball across, and Ramsey, the brother of the guy at Villa, his effort is deflected for the corner. But it's just pretty standard isolation out wide. Guy comes infield, but you've got bodies infield, so I wouldn't really worry too much about it.
It turns out this was the moment that Trent hurt his knee. So,
was it? Was that when his foot jarred in the turf? Oh yeah. But insofar as the point about people making comments, they're silly. I remember, if anyone wants to go and read this piece, you can. I wrote a piece after Trent played in midfield for England. Went through all the good stuff that he did, and there was 100 comments. Like the comment that's top is still why do you guys spend so much time talking about this average right back? And then in every match after that, until his injury, Trent put in minimum 8 out of 10 performance. I think the next match he actually scored against City. And then he just put assist, goal, assist. And honestly, the sort of people that make these comments are that I have not gone back to sort of rub it in the face tells you how little I sort of
care about it.
As in, if that's your takeaway when you're watching the match, and it's not it's not the 3 switches that he played, it's not the way that instigates play, it's not that this was a completely sort of inconsequential missed tackle, because I'm going to count how many players are covering. There's the ball carrier for Burnley, and then 2 forwards, and then you've got Kwanzaa, Endo, Van Dijk, and Robertson all there. The reason teams set up like this is that if a player gets if you are going to lose a challenge, you lose it out wide, because you don't want them to lose a challenge in the middle, because then they can attack through the middle and directly on goal. The idea is, if you get beaten out wide, that's fine, because you have bodies infield that can protect and prevent this actually coming to a shot, which is what happened. It turned into a corner. But as you asked initially, what about the corner? It's a really good header. It was really far out. There has been some technical analysis on Quivine and how late he was to push off. And it does look a bit strange, but at the same time, it's quite a well-placed header. And I know we've just dismissed XG on target as a thing, but it's given a 0.3, which is
a big chance.
Yeah,
that's a big chance. Yeah,
but from a 0.02 XG, it's a really good header.
Do you not think Endo could do better, seeing he doesn't jump?
See, my feeling with this is that Endo's the one to get the blame, right? So if you look at a clip of 3 seconds of the TV footage, it looks like Endo was marking him and he didn't do enough to get in his way. But if you look out from the zoomed out version or the game video, that you'll see that he is one of the 2 blockers. And there are 3 players. One of the 2 blockers leaves the vicinity and goes to the back post, leaving Endo with 3 players to impede. And nobody came out from their zone to head the ball, which will be in somebody's zone. It was left to Endo. And I actually blame Endo for what you talked about with Kwanzaa earlier. It was Endo.
Yeah, Kwanzaa's fault. That's in my notes as well, yeah.
Yeah, he just didn't head a ball that was that high, ducked underneath it, and then Kwanzaa went, "Oh shit!" too late, but which caused their big chance. But in this instant, I don't think it's Endo's fault. I don't think there's anything he can do against 3 players. And
I think that's, if you get a point blame, whether it's Endo or not, that's the error is with the blockers not doing their job there, right?
I actually think I think it's one of those. I don't know. Hamzah loves the tactic stuff, but it's you can't cover everything. We have a soft spot, and it's 12 yards out inside the front post. And it's the 3rd time this season we've conceded from there, and they put it in a perfect spot, and we can't cover everything, and that's the area that they like. I think what we probably, I would imagine that it's even some kind of legacy of Graham's swarm analysis that this, if we can't do every area of the pit of the box, the least likely place somebody's going to put in a thunder bastard of a header from,
he's there,
that our keeper can't score, is near post from 12 yards out, and just somebody did. So I think it's a tactical issue rather than any personnel, but it probably could have been attacked better if we set up with an attacking front post, and we don't.
Or you don't give the corner away, because I didn't think Robbo dealt with it that well.
Right.
If the ball comes across, I don't think Robbo sometimes has a tendency of dropping too deep or not quite. I think he could have cleared the ball better. I think he had more time.
And it is his first game back, isn't it?
It's first game back.
We actually mentioned that, but yeah,
it'd have been the first big deep cross of the game as well in his area. I think he just went, shit, excuse my French, I've got to do something here, rather than take a touch and whip it down the line.
Makes sense. But that takes it 1-1, and it kind of changed the mood in the stadium a little bit right before half time, wasn't it?
But it doesn't.
Diaz had a shot straight afterwards, didn't he?
Is that the overhead kick?
Some nice play.
Yeah, good bit of pattern play down the left. Comes across. Diaz does he seems to do that quite a bit. His overhead kick thing, and it goes wide. And then the rest of the half.
It was some lovely play. I think we had 17 passes at that point, and one of the 3 through balls we played, I don't know why it was like a 2-foot pass from CJ into Jota to pull back. I think it might have been Robbo, I'm not sure. And then that lovely. But to be fair to him, there wasn't an awful lot of options on there. He could have brought it down and played it out wide, but who's going to do that in that circumstance? And then,
well, there wasn't even anyone in the pocket, was there? It wasn't like a knockdown he could have made. It was literally do something yourself or it goes out.
That's it. And then it's half time. So what happens at half time, Hamzah?
Trent comes off.
Run us through the potential thinking of the solution to that problem.
As in Curtis going to right back?
Well, just think of the options on the bet for Klopp to solve that problem. So 5 minutes into halftime, he's got, right, Trent's not coming back on. How does he solve that problem?
Well, last season it would have been quite simple. It would have been James Milner or Joe Gomez, neither of whom were available because Milner's left and Gomez was out. Then, because left-footers don't play on the right, he's not considering Tsimikas. Also, he's just come back. And then you're looking at other senior players, and you've got Gakpo, who's tall, but has never played fullback before. Grav, who is apparently not fully well because he's ill. But Curtis, who's actually is industrious, is quick, can be moved from midfield, and can hold the width as a right-footed player, which may be able to get the other players infield a bit more space. And what this does, well, when you think about the midfield profiles as well, as in the starting midfield is not one that you'd expect to sort of have a lot of sort of box involvement in terms of shots and passes into the box, that sort of stuff, compared to Szoboszlai or Trent or whatever, right? But one of the things is that Harvey Elliott, when he plays on the right, he's not quick enough to play on the right wing, and he's not sort of big enough to anchor the rotation on the right as well. However, if you put Curtis there on the right, you now have physicality, pace, strength. And if you've still got McAllister there, you've still got Jota there, sorry, who's dropping in. And then and Jota who's moving wide, doing all the stuff that he usually does, that itty-bitty stuff I mentioned earlier. And that means Elliott can actually play in the half space where he likes to play and do that attacking midfield stuff without the output. And when I say output, I mean get into the box and shoot a lot. Not criticism of him, that's just the way that he sort of plays. So that actually balances the right side a bit more and finally puts Elliott in a position where he can do what he does best in a way that he can't do when he plays with Trent and Salah. Because if you want to have a right side rotation with Trent and Salah, let's say Trent anchors, Salah goes wide, then Harvey's infield and he's attacking the box, which isn't ideal. Or Harvey's wide, Salah's infield and Trent's deep, but you probably want Trent further up. Or you have Harvey anchoring and then Salah and Trent in their ideal positions, but you can't do that because Harvey can't anchor because he's not very big. So this sort of helps resolve that, I think.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Statistically, we, Mac, CJ, Endo, combined, their XA per 90 is 0.21 and Harvey's is 0.21 on his own. So it does something further up the pitch than those lads do. To be fair, Max is going to be artificially low because he's been playing 20 metres deeper than he would have. It's not like he doesn't have the capability. Last season, he was much higher. So, but as this season goes, I would also probably, in Harvey's defence, suggest that Trent loses the ball about 30% of his touches. Loses the ball is not the right. The opposition end up with the ball with 30% of Trent's touches. So he does stuff to stress the opposition to cause that gives up risk. So I wonder if Harvey is a little bit more conservative when Trent's behind because we're already giving the ball away a lot. That with CJ, who doesn't ever give the ball away, like twice a game, his possession control is about neutral to -2 and Trent's is -25. That perhaps it gives him a little bit more scope to make a risk. Does that kind of make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
and one
makes
thing that Trent did one thing that Trent did in the first half that not many other players did was he sought the early pass as well. The ball came in and he hit it immediately before Burnley had moved over to close the angle down or to pressure him. And that just, on a few occasions, opened up space in behind for Nunez or Jota or Diaz just to nearly get a shot away or nearly chase down the ball. And a quick pass against a block is quite useful. That early passing behind or that early movement just shocks or surprises defences in a way that stagnant, slow stuff that we mentioned earlier doesn't.
To say Harvey ended up with a similar midfield profile as Mac in terms of percentage of the team's total shots, duels, headers, all that kind of stuff on a profile plot. He's in and around the 5 to 10% mark, which is what Mac did, apart from Mac had more shots. So if you look at the profile plots I've got of them, they're very similar. CJ ends up being, because he moves out wider to more of the right back zone, creates more threat in the second half. So his pizza goes larger, but again, it's similar plot. Interestingly, in terms of profile of player, our front three will have the same profile of plot this game, which is the first time I've seen that since I've run the plot. Normally, one of them is different, but Diaz generally has a lot more APV, than the other two. But this one, they're all very similar segments. They all have a dominance in terms of the shots. They all have a similar dual rate, a similar aerials, and the rest of it is around 5%, 10%. So it's interesting. And the mid defence as well, boring stuff. But normally I take Gomez profiles exactly like a centre half, even when he's playing fullback. In this game, both fullbacks profile the same, and the two centre halves profile the same. So it's about that. We had more, even Trent, when he was on the pitch, profile was the same as Robbo. Apart from he's got higher peaks in terms of his APV at addition. But yeah.
Yeah, Trent this season has been carrying the ball at a higher rate than he had. Oh, actually, I think it's since he started to invert. So he used to be the pass first player and have a really high. I think it was around 68% of his total meters would have been from passing, and it's becoming. And Robbo's, it would be 40% was from passing, and 60 would be from carrying, and it's getting much closer. Yeah. So they're looking at much more similar profile.
Yeah.
Though Trent is obviously a killer makes more killer passes, but I think his volume of average pass distance has gone down, but he will still make a lot of killer passes. Interestingly, Harvey is our third highest XT per 90 in the team. So he's doing something.
Yeah, some of that would have been this game, right? Because he got 2 assists.
Though his number wasn't that high this game. He didn't get 2 assists. He got 1.
Was it okay? The other one.
Diaz's was deflected.
Gotcha.
So he did double his assists for the season from 1 to 2 with this game, but there's no getting around that he did play a significant role in our second half comeback, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that's fair. His average position is in the right half space, which is what Hamzah was saying, exactly where you need him to pick up the ball. Off the ball, I think if you look at that channel, if we look at Burnley's period where they created 3 big chances, their threat in that channel, their left wing and their left half space, in that period of time, they had nearly 60% of their APV was down that channel, and they created 3 big chances from that, which might be something to Harvey getting used to where he is or how we're reorganising, but it's just after that half-time period. So that shows you that impact, whereas in the first half, the threat was sort of equally spread. Not a lot, but it's Burnley, but it's still spread across the boxes, should we say. Whereas in that period of time when they created 3 big chances, they had over 50%, nearly 60% of their EPV was in that left half space channel and the left channel, far left channel. Their left.
This was one of the lower possession control games of our season. It was we've only had 2 worse. So we're down at possession control of minus 120. And we're usually around, in a good game, it's around 70. So you theoretically have less opportunity to win the ball back because it's Burnley and they don't have many possessions in the first place. But we were losing the ball really easily relative to normal and not winning the ball back very well. Harvey was at minus 2, which he's a minus 8 kind of guy. I know it's only 2 to 8, so it doesn't feel like a lot, but it is a big difference from a midfielder perspective. And he was actually the best of any midfielder in the game. So he made a significant difference to us retaining possession and then allowing us to build whilst trying to force, I think, probably more secure passes, but he was getting the ball into the box, wasn't he? And was decisive in the 2 moments. What do you guys think about the big chances in general? Because 6-5, was it 6-5? 5-4. In big chances. Do they have 4? We had 5.
Yeah, they had 4, we had 5.
Yeah. Like crazy. And that game didn't feel like a 9 big chance game, did it? There wasn't a lot of quality on show.
I was a bit shocked when I saw that at 5-4. I was like, I must have misread that. Or it must have calculated it wrong in the code. I was just like, that can't be right.
So we always label how many big chances happen in a game, but what we don't tend to talk about is how many big chances were taken from those big chances. So 2 of 5, and they had 1 of 4. They scored 1 big chance. They had 4.
That wasn't a big chance, was it? The header wasn't a big chance.
Oh, so they missed all 4.
They missed all 4.
Yeah. So we actually were a little bit lucky.
Yeah, but that is also like you said, like you preempted that with, are they big chances?
Yeah. Virgil's was given as a big chance.
Yeah.
So his typical stat padding third or fourth goal of the game.
The header
didn't work. Yeah, his header.
Yeah. And
Diaz was 1 of 2. Diogo's was 1 of 1, and Darwin was 0 of 1.
That's thrown goal, wasn't it? At the end, 94th minute.
Is that right? Was that the one?
It was 1v1. I can't.
Oh, because I thought he had 2, but one of them was ruled out because my Darwin
offside.
Was this offside? Did he hit because I wasn't quite sure. I was on a small screen.
That was across from.
Did he hit the post, or did he miss a big chance? And it was called offside because he did miss a big chance.
Yeah,
that kind of makes sense. So Diaz is now on a run of scoring 3 of his last 5 big chances, which is most statistically.
Nice to have when your big players out injured, right?
Yeah. We're down to 89 minutes per goal or assist for Diogo during Mo's absence, and 103 for Darwin. You gotta love this, haven't you? The attackers have stepped up, haven't they?
Yeah. When was the last time our front three all scored a goal?
Oh, last week. All the week before.
Was it?
Bear in mind, I don't remember cup games, but it was,
in the league. So I'll preface that.
Who did we play last week? Arsenal.
It wasn't Arsenal, wasn't then. Chelsea was...
Jota, Zobo, Diaz. No, it wasn't that.
Hamzah, you got an idea?
It was Norwich, I think.
Norwich. I just got to Norwich.
Right, it's Nunez and Jota. Diaz didn't score.
Yeah, Diaz didn't score.
Sorry, this is bad radio.
You're right.
It's bad radio, but I'm just saying, this used to be quite a regular thing, didn't it? The front three always get a goal or a piece.
It's assists. They were involved in all the goals.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, who needs bad radio? Jesus Christ. Right. Now I've totally mullered up the pod. Is there anything to go through the end of the game? Because we need to talk about their 2 goals, I'd have thought.
2 chances.
No, our 2 goals.
Oh, ours.
Do you want to go through their big chances first?
Okay.
Because the only reason I bring it up is because they, as many teams do, increase their long ball rate up against us. Usually this season, Burnley's long ball rate is 16%, but it was up to 23.4.
You learn well, young Padawan.
But it's also part of a semi-wider change within Burnley as well, because I think they tried to play their football at the start of the season, the football that they played in the Championship, and they realised very quickly that they need to be a bit more direct. So a little bit of a caveat to those numbers, but still, it's quite a large jump up. And that is how they got the error from Kwanzaa, a direct ball forward. It's how they had the other big chance as well, which was... I've lost it on the scrub, but it was
and Dooney's early in the game for Fana 68.
That's right. Yes, that's the only reason I thought good to bring up their big chances, because they played direct and just a few errors there. That was a Van Dijk error, I think, the early one, right, where he just didn't step out and Queeve had the save. But not much more to add on that.
The only thing I would add, another layer to Hamza's great long ball stat, is that their chain length, as in below 5, was 79% of the time they had a chain length of below 5. They had no chains over 15, which is quite unusual. Normally teams have a very low, medium, high. They had none in that high bracket. So they had 79% of their passes were involved in a chain of less than 5 passes.
They had no interest in getting pressed, did they?
They had no interest. They were just like pop, 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 bang.
Speaking of chains, I think Liverpool's second goal may come from what was once called a pressing chain. So you guys won't see this because it's a podcast, but Simon is smiling. What happens is Liverpool are pressing from the left side, first from McAllister, ball goes backwards, then Nunez follows it, curves his run onto the goalkeeper, ball gets popped to the right, Harvey Elliott then joins in on the press, the ball is pumped up the line, and then Curtis pops out because it's a blind pass down the line, Liverpool win possession. A few more sort of quick passes and things ensue, and Enzo has to win the ball back after McAllister does the thing where he kicks the opponent. And then the ball falls to Harvey and he crosses it for Diaz, who makes a header. But the key thing here, I think, to take away is actually that pressing sequence from left wing all the way to right wing, and then Curtis jumping in. That was a sustained pressing sequence of which Nunez played an important part as well, which is important to note because for a while he was pressing out of sync with the rest of the team, but it was a well-coordinated move, this.
Yeah, I think it's a really good example of that. I think it's the perfect use of that term, pressing sequence, because that's the key. The key to our gegenpressing is the sequencing. And you're right about Darwin. I actually felt a little bit sorry for Darwin because I wonder if he's spent the last year and a half having this thing hammered into his head. This is what we do. We do this at this angle, at this speed, go. And then, we're not doing that thing today. And that's what happened in this. We're not going to bother doing the press today. And so he's like, it's like a greyhound that's suddenly been let off a lead. He's been spent a year and a half being taught to race around after this rabbit. Actually, leave the rabbit alone. Leave it.
Let it run.
He's like, yeah, but, and he can't help himself, and he goes sometimes. So I don't blame him at all. He's full of effort and still trying to do the right thing, but it's just the wrong thing because it's the wrong time because nobody else has bothered to do it, or everybody else has been told to do a different job, and so it looks bad. But sign me up if it's created a new something Hamzah and I were talking about before the pod. If it's created a new default like pathway for his brain, this is what I have to do. Under stress, I have to press this way. Great, because nearly all of the time it'll be of benefit to the team.
But you know, I think that's also the same for the whole side.
Yeah,
we're better. We're better when we do that. We're not very good at mid block.
It's the inverse of what happens with. No, I suppose it's the same thing as what happens when we play Europa League, Europa teams or Champions League teams that dominate in their country, and they come to Anfield trying to defend. They just don't know how to do it.
So like you said,
it feels alien.
Yeah, like you said last week against Arsenal, there was different reasons, but we were trying to do something we're not very good at against Arsenal.
And we did it again, and we won because
Burnley
aren't Arsenal. Yeah, makes sense. Hopefully, we're not going to do it again, even though we've got a week to rehearse, or maybe we'll just get better at it because we do have a week to rehearse. But then we're playing with our hair on fire. We need to talk about the goals because we're just going to go on another.
Yeah, we've got one more goal. One more goal, which is corner. Isn't that right? We've got Robbo corner on 78. Goal. Yeah, Darwin. So it's a corner from Robbo. It pops out, recycled through Harvey. He puts the ball into an area, and Darwin's pretty good at this type of header. It's coming across him. He puts it in the reverse corner, if you know what I mean, the one behind him.
Yeah, he has done this earlier in the season, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. That's what I'm saying. This seems to be his type of header. If it's like in front of him, it doesn't seem to have the same impact, but the kind of flick into the far corner.
He did header a thunder bastard about 10 metres over the bar earlier in the game, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was like a 90-mile-an-hour header. It was just chasing Charlie Adams' penalty.
So this delicate thing that he can do, right? The thunder pass and stuff,
brilliant.
Maybe don't do, yeah. But this is a great header. Harvey got the assist. He did get an assist for this, right?
He got an actual assist.
Yeah, got an actual assist for this. Yeah. And then I don't think a lot else happens in the rest of the game, if I'm being honest. After that goal, 78 minutes, so that's 80. Then you get a round of subs to kind of eat up a bit of time, and it goes on till 98 minutes.
And then Darwin missed his big chance. Or
1-on-1.
Yeah, 1-on-1. Stat, a little bit too much time.
Which is what we said at the beginning. Too much time to think about it. Made the wrong call.
It is
what it is.
I thought, what do you think of Endo in this game? Endo seems to be getting above cult acclaim right now. He seems to have won over. I always wonder this with humans and football fans in particular, but with humans, and when people are innately good, and so when they are negative about something, retrospectively they feel like they were being mean, they can then overcompensate. So I feel like when we first bought Endo, our fan base were like lambasted it, unless you're one of the tacticos who pretend to think he's like they're all brilliant hipsters from Germany, so they know all about his genius. But everybody else was like, they were a little bit down on it, weren't they? Because he wasn't the big money signing that we were expecting at the time. He wasn't Caicedo or
wasn't the six that everyone wanted.
Yeah. So, and no one had actually heard of him, mostly. No. So he came in and he didn't play great when he first started. So people were mean about him, and they were probably very mean online about him or about the club signing him. So I wonder if there is a little bit, he's played much better, if just as humans, we are overcorrecting now, and he now is a first choice number 6, no matter who's available for Liverpool.
I think he played all right.
Do you think he's actually justified it?
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I think there are elements he does really well. He does do it differently from Mac. I think that's fair to say. If you look at his pass networks when he plays, there is a definite triangle between his 6 and 2 centre halves, which you don't normally get with Mac, right? So I think there's something I like about, I mean, you probably similar, so with your coaching, it's always about triangles, isn't it? So I like a triangle at the base of our midfield with a 2 centre halves either side. And Endo gives that. The thing that he is very left side dominant with his passing though. So if you look at the connections he makes to the right, they're not normally as accurate, and they're not in as greater volume.
That is when Hendo played 6.
Yeah, so
it's that way, not that way.
It doesn't go that way. So he hasn't got
That's
that
left, not right for anybody not watching this.
Yeah. So he hasn't got that swivel on a stick. He hasn't got that perfect swivel on a stick, which I think Fab used to have, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think, but in terms of he's off the ball, I think undoubtedly he does. But then Mac's been outstanding in terms of duels the last couple of games. But Ender does that, gives you as a baseline, right? But then is the trade-off, because undoubtedly Mac is better going forward, right? There is when Mac drops in, he can play that more vertical pass with a quicker pace and variety in his passing, whereas Endo can't do that. But then the trade-off is Endo is probably slightly better defensively in terms of those channel droppings off and passing lane dropping off. So I think it's always a question. I think it's good for us, if we ever have a full complement of midfielders, to have 2 tools to choose from at your 6.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just from a numbers perspective, the Mac has much better possession control than Endo.
Yeah.
So Endo looks like he can put in a tackle, and he doesn't do anything particularly expansive with the ball, but he still has possession control 3 lower than Max as a 6. So I'm not even sure if maybe there is something that doesn't come up. We talk about this defensively with players individually, that you can't count stuff that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So positionally, maybe he does stuff that shields, that prevents stuff happening that the Mac doesn't do, but which we can't count.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm fine with that. What do you think, Hamzah?
I think Endo is probably better than Mac in negative transition. I think he is a bit more capable of making those fouls, and he got booked for one earlier, but I think he throws his weight around a bit more effectively than McAllister does. I think, as Bart's also said, McAllister has made immense gains in his defensive game over the past few weeks as he's sort of become more accustomed to it. I think also, like Bart's, it's a sort of horses for courses thing, as in Endo has a slightly, he's bigger, he's stronger. For certain matches, that's a bit more useful than having McAllister as a 6. But I think if there's ever a choice between the two players, it's always going to be McAllister because he's a better player. But sometimes having Endo is quite useful, and his positioning, because he doesn't like to get forward too much, which sometimes is a negative, but sometimes can be a positive if you've got both fullbacks pushing on. Just means that you've got a bit more cover. So I think he's played well. This wasn't his best match. I think he showed his best form going into the Asian Cup. But he's been out for a while. He's come back, and it was fun. I think he offers a bit more negative transition, but he doesn't offer much at all in the possession phase.
Yeah, that's where I'd have him. So I think he's really handy to have around. I don't think he is in our best team. Right. Anything more about this game?
No. I think we should have a penalty in Jota in the first half, but anyway, we've gone past that.
I don't even remember it.
He got pulled down by centre half.
If you look at any corner, Jesus Christ, there were two-handed wrestling on someone.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't believe the stuff they were getting away with.
But there you go.
Because it's Burnley.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go give him a chance, aren't we? So, there you go.
Is it time for our injury section now?
I was going to say injury
segment. Right. Who are we talking about? We're always injured.
So Trent had a reoccurrence, Dom's had a reoccurrence, and Thiago's had a apparent, not a reoccurrence, but you know what I mean? They're all, the return to play protocol is something that you've mentioned as being maybe in question for these three players.
Right. We had this discussion before. So return to play protocols are usually designed by the multidisciplinary team, which is the new term we use for physio and strength and sports science department and doctors. So they're usually coordinated by what is now head of medicine, head of medical services, which is an old physio that's got promoted. Used to be a doctor. Anyway, they will set out a schedule for the diagnosed player, set out a schedule, and there'll be physiological markers that each player has to hit periodically over every once a day or every week, depending on how long the player is out for. And they would lay out a timeline so Klopp knows when to expect players to come back, and the player can know when to come back. And this, with Trent, it's really hard from the outside in to talk about such things because they have way more information than us. But from the information provided publicly, they don't necessarily, the timelines don't match up with the injuries they talked about, and the lads came back way quicker than would be typically expected for the injuries that were talked of publicly. So Zobbo and Trent came back to earlier than predicted. We talked about 2 weeks ago, Bart's, when Thiago was finally back in first team training. I thought This is me. Me talking about this makes it sound like I think I'm the all-knowing expert. I'm just giving general information of what is good practice. And I'm not saying the thing they're doing is bad practice. I'm just saying it doesn't align with what's good practice.
Which is fair. What you and I said, we thought Burnley was the game for Thiago, not Arsenal.
Yeah, so other stuff interferes with timelines. People need to win.
Yeah, injuries.
And there are humans involved. And what happens when some lad is 75% fit? Which means he's almost, that can mean so many different things to different scenarios, but he is almost ready to play in a live football match. And sometimes Klopp even mentioned himself, because this happened with Jota 6 weeks ago.
Jota against Burnley away.
There you go. The sports science team said he needs another week. He needs another week of training, basically, and he needs to be today. He needs to be doing 30 minutes of high intensity stuff today and build into team training. And Klopp said, "Why can't we try that 30 minutes on the pitch today in this game? If he's going to do 30 minutes of high intensity training, it might as well be on the pitch today." And it worked, and we won thanks to that decision. So here I am questioning one of the great managers of all time in saying, is it possible that humans at play here, that one decision, knowing what he knew then that nobody else did, influenced that decision, and now everybody else knows that decision, if now we aren't all in and it's affecting other decisions in the readiness of players? Does that kind of make sense? But that one success of Jota coming in ahead of schedule, ahead of what the sports science team were saying, the success of that, I wonder if that fueled the confidence that maybe we can do it this way,
rather than keep assessing each case on its own merits.
Exactly.
Which you could say from outside looking in, we've not done that. So
in these three cases, Thiago just coming on, even for 8 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Actually 13 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that. It was a top up afterwards.
It was a top up afterwards. Yeah.
But having to doing that opposed training then after opposed high level chaotic play is a different stimulus than just 40 minutes of unopposed training. Whether that is definitely not the return to play protocol that would have been on. I just told you what the standard protocol would have been. It was just very standard and normal at that point. And even then, it probably wasn't quite as conservative as many would have done. And they went a week earlier. So that's one. Then Trent coming back 3 weeks for a medial ligament strain isn't general practice. It could easily be twice that, but it's definitely at least minimum a week longer than that, if not two. So then Trent comes back and gets injured. And Zobo was also 2 weeks quicker than would have been predicted too. And then you get the recurrence. So you have three precarious decisions and three negative outcomes. I'm not saying I wouldn't have made all those decisions, because there's always a risk reward in these situations.
Sure.
It could well be that one potential is that the medical team were wrong. One potential is a medical team are crap. I don't think either of those two things are the case. One scenario is that the medical team provide all of the right rehab and then all of the information to the management team who pick the team. And their intent changed. The filter they run through their decision-making changed because this is the season we're at now. Or maybe it just changed because of need, because other players were injured. So they ended up getting forced into. That was my feeling with that. So the prognosis of them now is that Thiago's done, is that worst case scenario, that Zobo should be out for a minimum of a week more than he was the last time for the exact same injury. And Trent should be out for a minimum of a week more than he was the last time he was injured. Does that make sense? Because these are recurrences, and we got it wrong the last time.
So that's Trent and Dom going to miss the City game? Or just back for that?
Let me, without speaking out loud, let me just... We are at week 26, so 27, 28, 29. The City game would be doing the exact same thing for Trent, and it might be the right week for Zobbo.
And Thiago, is that a different injury? The same? Was it hamstring?
No, it's hamstring. Yeah.
So he did a hamstring, different injury, but it just means he's
yeah. And it was a grade 2 hamstring, so he could be out for 2 months.
Yeah. I suppose the other factor in this is it's no one's fault, but Bradley became unavailable, didn't he? Which would have been
causes stress, and changes the decision making matrix.
Because you would have played him. If Trent wasn't quite right, you'd be quite happy playing Bradley, but you didn't have that option, so you haven't got Robbo back, so you've got to play Gomez at left back. You've got to fill that player. You go into Arsenal, or no, was it Trent played? Anyway, you went to Arsenal, where you can't just put another kid in at right back, so you take the risk of playing Trent there, and he didn't pay off.
Yeah, I forgot about Gomez.
I think personally, if I was in the same position though, if it was Arsenal away, I would have tried to play Trent. I would have tried to get Sobber to play. And if I was a manager and I was a goal down with 10 to go and I had the best midfielder I've ever seen on the bench, and I thought, can I squeeze 10 minutes out of him? I would have. And then there's a red card, and then he has to fill a centre back, which isn't ideal, but I would have done all those things. And
I
it comes around and it's the same position again, and it's City at home, and you know what the league is like against City, I'd probably do the same thing again. Knowing exactly what we know now, knowing that we probably should give Trent an extra week, should give someone an extra week. Thiago doesn't have a chance, but let's say he did have a chance. I would take all 3 risks again because it's City at home.
It's worth the risk.
And if I was a manager as well, it's my last season. And all the players also recognise that, and they all go, I want to play because it's City, it's top class, and we're in 4 competitions. And
You're right.
That human element is you can try as hard as you can to divorce that, but that's also what makes them so good. Trying to squeeze out as much as they possibly can.
100%, Hamzah. And equally, if we got a draw at Arsenal, we'd all gone, fair enough. It paid off, right?
I would never be mad at that.
We would have still been five
I'm
clear.
busy being mad that we played in the Cups.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if to go on Hamza's point, if we got a draw at Arsenal, we'd still be 5 clear. We'd still be right in the box seat. It's just we're only a little bit looking at it, I think, again, humans, because we got beat. It's unfortunate, and it's really unfortunate with Thiago, because it would have been nice to have him for the running, but now it probably is not going to happen.
And that's also what managers believe intrinsically, that they can add a 1% or a 2% or a 5% more than everyone else believes that they can do. And that's what makes them special. They look at a squad and go, any other manager reckons they could get 10% more out of that squad, but I reckon I can get 11 or I can get 15.
Yeah.
Even if the scientists say this, I reckon I can get just a little bit more. That's what
I think Klopp thought he could get 30 when he first arrived.
There you go.
That's why they all broke. And then genuinely, if you talk to him about it, that he would have that conversation, and now he thinks he maybe can get 10.
Yeah.
But he still thinks he can get more than anybody else.
And also players do as well, right? Thiago coming on the pitch would have gone, I can get a draw here. But I'm just saying, Thiago would have gone into that game going, I know I can create one chance for my main man and we'll get draw here, and I'll be a hero.
Yeah.
Did he back himself?
I have a couple of England coaches coming on to talk later in the week about top-ups.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So I think that's the good stuff. I think we're done.
We're done.
I wish this was a visual pod, because then you could see Bart's magnificent warm-up jersey. I think is that a warm-up shirt?
Training
shirts. We have so many of them these days.
I know, right?
They're all the Liverpool team's got better clothes than Swifty.
This is quad season. That was.
I do like that colour.
Yeah, it's good.
I hate that.
For those that can't see, it's red.
As is the very stylish rugby shirts that Hamzah is wearing.
This is Dennis the Menace. For those that don't know Dennis the Menace, it's red and black striped jumper.
Nice.
There you go. You come to UP for fashion advice. Right. Good job, boys. Who are we playing next? Oh, we got... I don't think we're going to have a double header, but we've got two shitty teams, haven't we? So maybe it'll be worth it. Brentford and Luton?
Yeah. Luton's got brought forward because of the cup final. So we've got Brentford on the Saturday, I think, and Luton on the Wednesday.
Yeah, before the cup final. So
yeah,
in my brain, we've got Brentford, Luton, cup final, and then another cup game. So I'll be on again in about 3 weeks. Okay, up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.